Live from ABC7, this is Eyewitness News at 8 p.m. on LA56.
A tragic ending to a missing person search. Authorities say they have found the remains of a Cal State Northridge student who went missing last month. The mayor of Marietta arrested. He's suspected in a drunk driving crash that injured 4 teenage girls. Hurricane Gonzalo is pounding Bermuda with its fierce wind and heavy rain. Good evening. I'm Colleen Sullivan. David Ono is off tonight. Welcome to Eyewitness News on LA56. The body of a missing college student who vanished a month ago has been found in Palm Desert. Eyewitness News reporter Jory Rand is live outside the student's home in Northridge with reaction from friends. Jory?
Colleen, the family of Abdullah Al-Qadi described not knowing where he was or what happened to him as misery. The 23-year-old student at Cal State Northridge went missing 1 month ago, but last night, just before midnight, his body was found alongside the 10 freeway in Palm Desert. Al-Qadi, who is from Saudi Arabia, had just sold his car using the website Craigslist back on September 17th. He was not heard from again. Tonight, at his home in Northridge, friends and family made their way in and out. And according to friends of the family, Al-Qadi's father, who is in Saudi Arabia, was informed of his son's death by the U.S. consulate today, and he will arrive here in the U.S. on Sunday. But those of his family here tonight, including Abdullah's brother, were just too distraught to speak.
They are under shock, under shock. Like, they couldn't believe what happened because, like, they sent their child to study, not like to get in this situation and involved in a problem that he shouldn't involved with.
His cousin and his brother cannot make any statement right now. They're very destroyed emotionally.
Now, the president of Cal State Northridge, Diane Harrison, released a statement tonight. It says, in part, it is with great sadness that we have learned of the passing of Abdullah Al-Qadi. Now, Police Chief Charlie Beck is set to make a press conference on this case on Monday. The LAPD says they will not release any new information until that happens 3 days from now. We're live in Northridge. Jory Rand, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
All right, Jory, thank you. Marietta Mayor Alan Long is free on bail but could face charges. Police say he failed a field sobriety test. Inland Empire reporter Leticia Juarez talked to friends of the girls hurt in the crash and has reaction to the mayor's arrest.
Marietta Mayor Alan Long is facing some serious charges. Last night, Long allegedly crashed his truck into a car carrying 4 teenage girls while under the influence. The impact crumpled the rear end and shattered the back window, sending all 4 girls to the hospital.
I have a daughter that goes to Marietta Valley, so that hits close. That hits close.
3 of the girls are members of Marietta Valley High School's cheerleading squad. Friends identified sisters Chloe and Camille Rogers and sisters Melissa and Andy Reynolds as the victims. The girls, ages 14 through 17, were returning home following a pep rally at the school.
Driving away from the night rally, I never expected that just 2 of the girls on my team that I'm with all the time, to see, like, in the hospital the next day.
From what I heard, 2 of the girls got a concussion, like a major concussion, and just whiplash, but I know the other girl broke her neck, and that's pretty serious.
Long is also a battalion chief with the Anaheim Fire Department. The fire agency tells Eyewitness News, "We were just informed of this off-duty traffic collision and will monitor the investigation closely as the days progress." Meanwhile, Marietta residents are expressing their shock and anger.
As a mayor, he should be setting an example for the city and not be drinking and driving.
In June, Long gained national attention for his opposition to undocumented immigrants being processed through Marietta's detention center. Long is in his first 4-year term as mayor and is running for re-election on a campaign of safety and moral character.
It's not a very firm leg to stand on when you're drunk driving and then crashing into teenagers.
Leticia Juarez, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
3 of the 4 girls injured in the crash are now out of the hospital. Mayor Long is out on $50,000 bail. He's due back in court on December 10th. 2 of the 5 teenagers killed in a fiery freeway crash in Irvine earlier this month were laid to rest today. More than 800 people gathered to say goodbye to Brandon Moreno and Alex Sotelo, both just 14 years old. Among the crowd, family, friends, and dozens of Sotelo's fellow soccer players at Capistrano Valley High School.
They all just wanted to come out and just kind of honor him, this one more time for the families.
I say thank you for your help, and we can all get through this.
Sotelo and Moreno were two of the 5 teens killed in the crash while on their way home from Knott's Scary Farm. 2 more funerals are scheduled for tomorrow morning for Jenny Campos and Matthew Mello. A 16-year-old unlicensed driver did survive the crash. It's still not clear what caused him to veer off the road. With the Ebola crisis escalating, President Obama is turning to a trusted friend to be his point man. Ron Klain will streamline the administration's response to the Ebola crisis. This as new efforts are underway to keep the virus from spreading.
President Obama appoints Ron Klain to manage the federal government's response to Ebola in the U.S. Klain has a long history of government service, serving as the chief of staff to both Vice President Joe Biden and former Vice President Al Gore. Klain's appointment comes as reports of potential cases spark fears in the public. A Carnival cruise ship off the coast of Belize has quarantined a Dallas health worker who handled Ebola samples from Thomas Eric Duncan. Duncan died last week. The ship was supposed to stop in Cozumel, Mexico today, but it was turned away with 6,000 people on board. Officials say the unidentified female has no signs of Ebola. And the Pentagon shut down a parking lot where a woman vomited and told police she had recently returned from Africa. That woman's employer now says the woman did not travel to Africa and that she vomited due to an illness unrelated to Ebola. In Ohio, a total of 16 people are being monitored by medical officials after coming in contact with Amber Vincent, a Dallas nurse diagnosed with the virus after treating Duncan. One of these people under strict quarantine. Vincent may have been feeling ill before she made her round trip from Dallas to Cleveland 1 week ago.
We can't rule out the fact that she might have had the start of her illness on Friday.
But Vincent's uncle says it's not true.
She felt well until Tuesday morning.
Frontier Airlines says it has contacted over 1,000 passengers on 7 flights. Passengers who flew with Vincent and those who flew on the same plane before it was grounded. And Nina Pham, the first of the Dallas health workers to contract Ebola, seemed in good spirits in this YouTube video posted by the Texas Health Presbyterian Hospital. She is being treated at the National Institutes of Health in Maryland, where she is now listed in fair condition.
We fully intend to have this patient walk out of this hospital.
Also tonight, the monitoring period for the initial 48 people who had contact with Duncan in Texas before he was hospitalized is coming to an end. Their 21-day monitoring period will end on Sunday. A health concern in Moore Park after a recent high school graduate and San Diego State University student died of meningitis. 18-year-old Sarah Stelzer passed away yesterday after being hospitalized in San Diego. Officials are concerned about possible exposure to other San Diego and State and Moore Park High School students where she visited this past weekend. There's concern she came in close contact with nearly a dozen students at homecoming last weekend. Health officials say those most at risk could be members of her sorority in San Diego. Turning to the fight against ISIS, U.S. officials say the city of Kobani may fall. Here's the view of Kobani from the border of Turkey and Syria. Fighting continues between Syrian Kurdish fighters and Islamic State militants. Although U.S. officials say the city may fall to ISIS, there are encouraging signs. Authorities say the Kurds are fighting to regain territory that was previously lost to the militants. Tonight, Hurricane Gonzalo is making a direct hit on Bermuda. ABC's Gio Benitez has been there bracing for the storm all day alongside island residents.
The wrath of Hurricane Gonzalo captured on camera.
Here she comes, guys!
The powerful storm zeroing in on Bermuda right now. Conditions worsening hour by hour.
It's blowing
as we travel this island paradise.
It's about 1 o'clock right now, and you can see these menacing waves just throwing water onto this road. It's been shut down.
Residents watching.
There we go.
And waiting.
It's only like 1:30 in the afternoon, and seems like the damage is starting already. Our blinds are starting to rumble, and the lights are starting to blink, so we know like within the next half an hour to an hour, it's going to be right upon us.
Just look at the power of this storm. It is still well offshore, but we're just beginning to feel the effects, and you can see what that looks like.
So when you're looking at this, what are you thinking?
We're in for a rude awakening.
And that was just the beginning.
It's 3 o'clock, and those first rain bands are just moving in here in Bermuda. And you can see behind me already, some of those boats haven't made it.
Small boats sinking one by one. And by 3:30, where the big ships dock, that port, a live webcam catching it all. And look down there, that's where we are.
This is Port Bermuda. It's what the world's been watching on that webcam. And just offshore, the UK Royal Navy ship is standing by, ready to come in if help is needed.
Just 2 hours later, and it's deteriorated to this. Tonight, the people here are ready to take on this monster. I know Bermuda's strong, but this is a strong storm.
we're stronger.
Yeah, the people of Bermuda certainly are strong, but they're hoping their homes are strong too. Many of the buildings here are built of concrete, but the real test tonight is whether those buildings will be able to withstand Gonzalo's rage. Gio Benitez, ABC News, Hamilton, Bermuda.
And our Jonathan Novak is tracking Gonzalo and another hurricane in the Pacific. Jonathan.
Yeah, we have Ana in the Pacific we're going to look at in just a second. But Gonzalo, the latest numbers, still holding on to winds of 110 miles an hour, still moving to the north-northeast at 16 miles an hour. There's the eye of the storm, the southern end of that eye, moving past Bermuda. That's where the strongest winds are, around that eye wall. Here's the thing with this storm. Even when it passes Bermuda, you see this rotation around hurricanes and storms that come through the states, extratropical cyclones. What we see, the rotation is counterclockwise, so they're going to get an additional storm surge around that storm that's going to continue even as the storm has passed by. In the meantime, Hurricane Ana, winds of 80. It's actually slowly strengthening. That was the latest update right there, moving to the northwest at 13. Now, the main concern with Ana for the Hawaiian Islands is going to be the rainfall, up to 12 inches of rain in some spots in Hawaii. So for them, the storm's going to head south, but the rain would still going to be an issue for them. For us, we're looking at a cold front we're going to discuss a little later and how that's going to affect our weekend weather. The latest on that 7-day forecast coming up in a few.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. We'll see you in a few minutes. Up next here at 8, he took a bank customer hostage, then shot it out with police. It was all caught on video. Today, he learned his sentence. Plus, cash, corruption, and a deputy breaking his silence. We're hearing from a former LA County Sheriff's deputy who admits stealing from the drug dealers he busted. And will we see above average rain this snowfall and winter? What does that mean for our ongoing drought? An Irvine man who took a hostage out of Buena Park Bank and then opened fire on SWAT officers is sentenced to 24 years in prison. Mayung Jae Kim was convicted in April of several felonies, including false imprisonment and assault, but was acquitted of attempted murder. The disgruntled businessman took the employee hostage in 2012 in retaliation after money he put in a safety deposit box went missing. The judge rejected appeals from more than 24 family and friends, sentencing Kim to probation. When good cops go bad, tonight we get a rare inside look from a former LA County Sheriff's deputy who went from cop to criminal as part of an elite narcotics squad that stole from the drug dealers they busted. As Eyewitness News reporter Jory Rand tells us, deputy turned felon Robert Juarez is now sharing his story with the LAPD.
Do you feel like a crooked cop?
Well, I was a crooked cop. There's no getting around it. You are who you are. I was a dirty cop. I screwed up.
Robert Juarez hasn't been a cop for more than 20 years, but recently the former LA sheriff's deputy, who spent 4 years in a federal prison, has been reliving his past.
Do you remember on the job the first time you crossed the line?
The major thing was when that one partner of mine came up and handed me a bag with money.
Juarez says saying no in a situation like that may sound easy, but it never is.
If I would have refused, probably within days, something would have been drummed up on me that I was doing. Would have got to the captain, or probably would have been booted out of the crew. Everybody took a cut. After that, it got to the point where the search warrant, it didn't matter if the suspect got away, find the bag with the money.
Juarez was indicted on federal corruption charges. He pled not guilty but was convicted when fellow deputies who had stolen right alongside of Juarez testified against him. His story will be told as part of 2 upcoming documentaries, one of them produced and co-directed by his own son, Nicholas.
Sheriff's Department, we have a search warrant. Open the door, get your hands up.
I had left school. I was just kind of lost, and I was sitting there on the street, and I said a prayer to myself, essentially. I said, one of these days, I will make good of everything that's happened bad in our life.
That has turned into Raised by the Badge, the story of both of his parents. His mother, Cynthia, retired honorably from the LAPD after a 22-year career, but it was his desperate need to find redemption for his father that led to this project.
In the beginning, it wasn't about getting footage. I just wanted my dad back in an environment amongst police officers to be one among them, letting him feel how he felt before.
It was also about 2 sons finding some healing.
I was a junior, I believe, in high school when he was indicted, a senior when he went to prison. So I go junior year back to high school, and it was just complete shame.
We were all estranged from each other once this happened. We were never the same. This has brought us back together again. It's given us focus and a goal as a family, and so I'm grateful for that.
And now, Robert Juarez is back among police officers, not working as a cop, but warning others of where he went wrong.
Well, gentlemen, there is no gray area. The law is as definitive as the black and whites that you drive.
For me, it drove home the aspect of family, I guess, and how things can go bad, and it not only ruins your life, it ruins family's life.
Getting on stage, staring down at the life he could have had, hasn't been an easy thing to do.
The thought that runs through my head is they're probably thinking, what the hell is this dirty cop doing up here talking to us? But then there might be just a slight chance that there's one cop in there who's thinking of doing something, and he's thinking, you know what, why not? Who's going to know? And that's the way we started off. Who's going to know?
Our last event, one of the officers came up to my father and said, you're still a cop. That was the dream come true for me. He needed to hear that he was still a cop. There was still good in him.
Jory Rand, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Jury also reports that Nicholas's film, Raised by the Badge, is set to come out later this year. The other doc, Freeway, Crack in the System, will be out in January. As for those talks Robert gives, as of now, they only have been to LAPD officers. He's hoping to speak to the Sheriff's Department as well, but so far his former employer has declined offers for him to return. Turning to our drought and news today that parts of California could receive above average rain and snow this winter. That's according to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration's Climate Prediction Center. Officials say there is a 67% chance of a weak El Nino bringing wet weather December through February. However, experts say even with a good dose of rain, it won't be enough to end the state's extreme drought. They also caution this is just a prediction and El Nino patterns could change.
Yeah, exceptional drought. I mean, it's bad.
Oh,
and it's not
really
just
terrible.
in certain spots of California. It's most of the state. And not to be a downer, but you know, with all the debris that we have that wildfires feed off of, if we have that kind of sticking around long enough, that kind of makes it hard for the ground to absorb rain, and then you get flooding. But we're not going to worry about that right now.
No, let's talk about our weekend forecast because it's
what
already Friday.
I'm going to smile. We'll talk about positive stuff. A great weekend ahead. Did you like the 70s that we've had recently, the last few days?
Yep.
That's below average. It feels very nice, but we have a warm-up in store, Colleen. We're going to get back in the 90s sometime soon in that 74. She's nodding her head. She likes that. This, in the meantime, running springs. Thank you for that. Great time lapse as the sun was heading down. Some rain to our north and northern portions of the state. That is a cold front that's going to wash out over us, not bring rain for us. but it is going to help to keep those temperatures pretty much where they've been in the mid-70s or so. 76 is our high in downtown today. 78 is our normal high. A little cool, right, for this time of year. 68 in Long Beach. Good evening to you. 67 as we head in to Van Nuys right now. It's your current temperature. 50 in Wrightwood. 51 Big Bear. By the way, Big Bear, you're going to see this in a second. The 7-day has you at 27 at one point. I'm going to show you that in a second. It's going to get very cold. 63 in Hemet, 69 in LA and Fullerton. It's a nice mild night. We're going to cool down into the mid-60s in most spots. And then we have this, a front that is moving through the western portion of the country. You see this dip in the atmosphere. That's the trough associated with the front. Front's bringing some rain up to the Pacific Northwest. Again, the clouds ahead of it. That's really what we're going to get out of it. Plus, it's going to keep our temperatures in check. Watch what happens on the future scan. A couple of things. There's a front. This is going through Saturday morning. And then I bring it through Saturday evening and into Sunday. You see that little arc right there? That's high pressure, briefly kicks in to warm us up a couple of degrees. But then another trough rolls in from Monday and Tuesday. And then Wednesday we'll start warming up. And we're warming up to temperatures into the 90s in the valley by next Thursday and Friday. So we've got about 4 or 5 more days of temperatures like you're looking at on your screen before we get back above average. So 78 in Ontario tomorrow, 77 Covina, and 77 Apple Valley at the coast, 74 in Oceanside and in Dana Point. 7-day forecast for LA Metro and Orange County, powered up by AccuWeather tonight. 76, there's a little bit of a warm-up there on Sunday. 77 will cool down with that next trough on Monday, Tuesday, and then Wednesday's a big warm-up, and even bigger on Thursday, and we're near 90 by next Friday in LA. Valley's IE, you've got 70s for 4 days, and you've got 80s for a day on Wednesday before you're at 90 degrees on Thursday and Friday. So fall for a while, and then things get back hot again. The mountains, your status quo, pretty steady as she goes in the lower to mid-60s for most of the forecast, around freezing to start your mornings. But next Friday, I have you at 27 in the morning. Now, it's going to get cold in the high desert, looking nice, mild, and breezy for the weekend. Warm weather coming up in a few minutes.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Up next, some encouraging news to report on a Temecula boy who suffered a serious electric shock on his own birthday party. We're going to show you how he's doing. Plus, life or death decisions for officers inside the brand new virtual training tool for local law enforcement. Good news about a Temecula boy who suffered a serious electric shock at his backyard birthday party nearly 2 weeks ago. We have some new photos of 10-year-old Elijah Belden, and he's doing much better. Look at him smiling. He was initially put in a medically induced coma. Earlier this week, he was in a breathing tube, and that was removed, and he's been speaking to family members.
And, you know, to hear his voice, we were very joyful.
Aww. Doctors say Elijah suffered no damage to his heart or brain. He apparently touched a metal patio cover that was electrified. And we are updating the evening's top stories next at 8:30, including UCLA's full dress rehearsal simulating an Ebola scare on campus, how they're preparing for the worst. Plus, the Florida man convicted of killing a teen over loud music learns his fate.
Live from ABC7, this is Eyewitness News at 8:30 p.m. on LA56.
Our top story at 8:30, the search for a missing Cal State Northridge student has come to a tragic end. I'm Colleen Sullivan. This is Eyewitness News at 8:30 on LA56. The LAPD confirms they found the remains of Abdullah Al-Qadi around midnight last night along the 10 freeway near Cook Street in Palm Desert. The 23-year-old engineering student was last seen as a resident on Reseda Boulevard in Northridge 4 weeks ago. It's not yet known how he died. Police will hold a press conference on Monday to discuss more information on the case. The mayor of Marietta arrested, suspected in a drunk driving crash that injured 4 teenage girls. Police say Mayor Alan Long failed a field sobriety test. 4 teenage girls were injured in the crash. One of them remains in the hospital tonight. Long is free on $50,000 bail. He is due back in court in December. There was a practice drill at UCLA's Ronald Reagan Medical Center today on how to handle an Ebola patient. Eyewitness News reporter Sid Garcia shows us all the safeguards that were tested out today.
The drill begins with the patient arriving at the emergency room at UCLA.
From there, the patient is isolated and a team of doctors and nurses wearing protective gear begin treatment.
The patient was then transported up to the intensive care unit, special unit with also isolation precautions, where the initial treatments would begin.
Healthcare workers wear protective clothing from head to toe, no skin ever exposed.
They used full body suits, they had a mask on, they had goggles, a face shield, they had a hood over their head, all skin was covered. One of the things that particularly impressed me was that they used the buddy system in putting on this protective equipment, and that they had a safety officer who was talking them through every step of the process.
Getting an Ebola patient from the emergency room to the special isolation area, according to the doctors, is done without exposing others to the infected patient. It's possible an Ebola patient could be sent from UCLA to a specialized hospital. It depends on how sick that patient is.
If it became ever necessary, we felt, and to the patient's best interest, to have the patient sent to one of these high-level biocontainment hospitals, that also would be in consideration and in consultation with the California Department of Public Health and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, in Atlanta.
As an eyewitness to today's drill, Dr. Schwartz says UCLA is ready to handle an Ebola patient if one emerges here in Los Angeles.
We know that preparedness is a process and that there is still room for additional improvement. But they did an excellent job in the exercise today, and we're confident that they could.
Sid Garcia, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Stay with Eyewitness News for continuing coverage of Ebola in America. Remember, you can get all the latest information on our website, abc7.com, or by following us on Facebook and Twitter. A judge agrees to consider dismissing a defamation lawsuit by Donald Sterling's mistress against Shelley Sterling. This comes after the judge heard from Shelley Sterling's lawyer today, who said V. Stiviano's lawyer failed to specify defamatory statements. But Stiviano's lawyer says Shelley Sterling called Stiviano a thief on national TV. Stiviano is countersuing Shelley Sterling, who wants $2.5 million from Stiviano for gifts Donald Sterling gave her. Shelley Sterling claims them as community property. A former music instructor at an Anaheim church is sentenced today to 30 years to life in prison for molesting 2 girls. David Verduzco was convicted earlier this month on several charges relating to a pair of incidents. The one case, he assaulted a 9-year-old girl he was supposed to be babysitting. In another case, prosecutors say he used a cell phone to take upskirt images of a 12-year-old girl he was giving piano lessons. LA County Sheriff deputies have a realistic new training tool. It can help them decide in a split second how to respond in tense situations with potential suspects. Eyewitness News reporter Mark Robles was there as deputies were put through their paces.
There's performance. Let me see your hands. There's performance.
It's described as the most realistic use of force training simulator for law enforcement, and it's brand new for the LA County Sheriff's Department. The Vertra V300 immerses deputies in more than 100 scenarios they could potentially face in the field.
The scenario was, I think, as realistic as I've ever been through. Your heart starts beating a little faster because the situation is, constantly dynamically changing.
Those scenarios include a person with a gun, an active shooter, domestic violence, or hostage situations, and most require split-second decisions.
No deputy wants to make the decision to take another human life, and it impacts everybody who's involved in that incident.
The goal here is to train deputies when to shoot and when not to shoot.
A lot of people talk about the fact that we shoot to kill. We shoot to stop. We shoot to stop the threat, and once the threat is eliminated, then we stop shooting.
And these deputies are able to choose which weapon they use, including a real handgun, a shotgun, or a rifle. But these firearms are modified, filled with compressed carbon dioxide instead of live ammunition.
Drop the bat.
Stun guns or pepper spray can also be used, and in some cases the appropriate response is to simply communicate and not deploy any weapon. It's training for real-life situations they hope will help save lives.
If we had 0 deputy-involved shootings, that would be desirable, probably unrealistic, because most of those are driven by the actions of the suspects. And we certainly, if we do make the decision to shoot, we will make sure we shoot the right people.
Reporting from Monterey Park, Mark Robles, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
A Florida man convicted of fatally shooting a teenager in an SUV over loud music has been sentenced to life in prison without parole. This was the second trial for 47-year-old Michael Dunn after jurors deadlocked in the charge at his first trial in February. Dunn, who was white, shot 10 times into an SUV carrying black teenagers, killing 17-year-old Jordan Davis of Marietta, Georgia in 2012. Dunn apologized to Davis's parents.
I really regret what happened. I'm sorry for their loss. And if I could roll back time and do things differently, I would. I was in fear for my life, and I did what I felt I had to do. Still, I am mortified that I took a life, whether it was justified or not.
Jordan Davis's mother said she always taught her son to love and forgive, and said in court today that she chooses to forgive Dunn for taking her son's life. 16 people fall 60 feet to their deaths when the ventilation grate they're standing on collapses during an outdoor concert in South Korea. 11 other people were seriously injured. Officials say some 700 people were there watching the concert, which was part of a local festival. Authorities say they think the grate collapsed because of the weight of the number of people. This tragedy comes as South Korea is still dealing with the aftermath of April's ferry disaster that left more than 300 people dead or missing. Tonight, an American city under fire for a change so small it's almost undetectable, but not to drivers. It's catching them as they slip through yellow traffic lights, raising questions about safety and costing drivers a fortune. ABC's David Curley has details.
The flash. A red light camera caught you. And in Chicago, thousands were caught and fined when the city, without making it public, started ticketing on a shorter yellow light.
Here's what they did in Chicago. The national requirement is that a yellow light be no shorter than 3 seconds. But Chicago decided to ticket 1/10 of a second less, 2.9 seconds. It says it's within the margin of error.
A tenth of a second? That really makes a difference? Oh yeah. Just since spring, another 77,000 tickets in Chicago and nearly $8 million in fines. A national motorist group called Chicago's ticketing at 2.9 seconds nothing more than a cash grab.
We're relying on government to be fair and transparent and to help improve safety rather than using speed cameras as just another way to raise money.
Not only are cities criticized for using red light cameras for making money, studies show that shortening yellow lights can lead to more accidents and deaths. A federal study says increasing yellow light time by just 1 second cuts severe red light crashes by 40%. In Chicago, they've stopped ticketing at 2.9 seconds, but it looks like those 77,000 tickets to drivers who were shorted by those short yellow lights will stand. David Curley, ABC News, Washington.
It's back after nearly 2 years in orbit. It's the mysterious unmanned Air Force space plane, the X-37B, landing today at Vandenberg Air Force Base. What was it doing all this time on the longest of its 3 space missions so far? That is a secret. It looks like a baby shuttle, 29 feet long, built by Boeing, and there are 2 of them. The Air Force will only tell us it's an experimental test vehicle. It's believed to be a technology demonstrator for future spacecraft. Another flight is set for next year. Entertainment news is up next, including actress Hilary Swank hoping her new movie will open more eyes about ALS. Plus, Bono was known for always wearing a pair of sunglasses. Now he's revealing the reason why. And Brad Pitt looking to take the weekend box office with Fury. George Pinocchio shows us all that's new in theaters. U2 lead singer Bono says there's a reason you always see him in sunglasses. He has to wear them. Bono says it's not a rock star thing. It's because he has glaucoma and has been battling it for 20 years. Glaucoma is a buildup of pressure that can damage the optic nerve and it can make your eyes sensitive to light. Bono revealed his condition on BBC's Graham Norton show, but he let everyone know he has good treatments and he is going to be fine. Hilary Swank and Emmy Rossum are starring in a new movie about ALS. It's called You're Not You. Swank plays a classical pianist who's diagnosed with the disease. Rossum is a college student who comes in to be your caregiver. Naturally, they learn about life from one another. Swank believes the movie is especially great for people who learn about ALS through this year's very successful social media fundraiser to help fight the deadly disease.
We get the opportunity now to embody what the ALS Ice Bucket Challenge was even there for. So that's a great thing that we can now bring it to that next level to say this is what it is.
You know what's interesting is I think everyone has a bucket list, and until you're faced with an expiration date, I'm not sure that anyone actually ever really believes that they're going to die. You know it in theory, but you don't ever really believe it until someone says you have 6 months or you have a year. Then you have to really reevaluate it.
You're Not You is in theaters and limited release now. It's also available through video on demand. Brad Pitt comes back to the silver screen for a World War II epic, and former high school sweethearts reunite. Plus, the Dia de los Muertos serves as a backdrop for an animated film the entire family can enjoy. Entertainment guru George Pinocchio joins us with a preview of what's new at the movies this weekend.
We never run before, I ain't running now. We're gonna fight it out. We can't. I'm gonna hold this crossroads.
Brad Pitt takes us back to the end of World War II as a battle-hardened army sergeant in Fury. The Allies are making their final push into Nazi Germany, and Pitt and his 5-man tank crew face a deadly mission behind enemy lines to help end this conflict once and for all. Shia LaBeouf, Michael Pena, John Bernthal, and Logan Lerman also star in this R-rated battle-filled drama.
I may not be the town hero, but I swear, with all my heart, I will never stop loving you.
In the Book of Life, Diego Luna is the voice of a young man who must choose between living up to his family's expectations or following his heart. He sets off on a quest to help answer those major life questions. You'll also hear the voices of Christina Applegate, Ice Cube, Hector Elizondo, Zoe Saldana, and Channing Tatum.
Amanda?
Dawson.
It's been a long time.
20 years.
21. But who's counting?
It's time for another Nicholas Sparks novel to come to life on the big screen. The Best of Me explores second chances. Former high school sweethearts, played by James Marsden and Michelle Monaghan, return to their small hometown. And while their love is rekindled, the forces that drove them apart in the first place have not gone away. This one's rated PG-13. In limited release, Michael Keaton is back in the spotlight in the critically acclaimed Birdman. He plays an actor famous for portraying an iconic superhero who's trying to mount a Broadway play. In the days leading up to opening night, he battles his ego and attempts to recover his family, his career, and himself. And Rudderless marks William H. Macy's directorial debut. In it, Billy Crudup plays a former high-profile ad exec whose life is torn apart by his son's sudden death. When he finds a box filled with his son's music, he finds a way to reconnect with his child through his talent. George Pinocchio, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
Jonathan Novak has your complete weekend forecast up next. Plus in sports, the Dodgers have a new leader, but will Andrew Friedman keep Don Mattingly? The answer next. And a local CHP officer being called a hero for this quick action after a car flew off the road near Big Bear and burst into flames. A CHP officer is being hailed as a hero for pulling a driver out of his wrecked vehicle just moments before it burst into flames. Eyewitness News Inland Empire Bureau Chief Rob McMillan spoke with the survivor and the reluctant hero.
Just take one look at what's left of this burned-up Subaru, and you can see how lucky the driver is to have survived.
Did you ever think, could this be it for me?
I didn't have time to. I knew I was in trouble. I knew the car was burning.
Wallace Henderson was on his way home to Sugarloaf on Tuesday on Highway 38 just below Onyx Summit when he lost control and went over the edge.
This happens in seconds. Just boom, 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 and I'm over the side.
Moments later, his car caught on fire.
Things are going on in my head like, I got to get out of here.
But he says he was trapped.
These side airbags, when they went off, and they're fully inflated, they cover the door handles up. And I can't get to the door handles. And it's starting to get smoky in the cab.
Fortunately, though, not long after Henderson went off the edge here, a CHP officer just happened to be driving by. He saw the smoke and realized something was wrong.
I could see that the hood was up and there was flames coming out of the engine compartment.
CHP officer Jason Olsberger moved down to the car about 25 feet down the side of the hill.
I opened up the driver's side door.
The officer was standing there and he said, get out of here, this thing's going to blow. Come on, let's go now.
Something blew up in the engine compartment. I'm not exactly sure what it was.
And he's saying, hurry up. And I said, give me a hand.
Holzberger was able to get Henderson up to safety. Moments later, the car was engulfed in flames.
If he wasn't able to get out of the vehicle, it definitely would have taken us out.
Have you ever thought about what might have happened had he not been driving by right at that time?
No, I don't want to even go there.
Feel like a hero?
I don't really feel like a hero, but just the way that everybody's been treating me, I guess I kind of feel like one.
In Big Bear, Rob McMillan, ABC7 Eyewitness News.
All right. Well, let's talk about our weather now. And boy, oh boy, you said it's going to be cooler, and I like cooler weather right now.
You're going to love the next several days, but are you okay with a warm-up? Or like kind of a big warm-up?
I'm reluctant to say
yeah.
Well,
I
like cold.
You like cold? Okay, we can keep you happy for at least a little while. That's the best I can do. All right, it's not bad, actually. We're going to start with that live Megan Upload 7000 HD, and we're going to show you that we have things that look pretty dry tonight. In fact, this is a time-lapse, actually, earlier of Malibu, showing the mid and upper-level cloud cover that rolled in ahead of the next. Colleen, you're going to love this. Cold front. Cold front. Word cold's in there. Keeps things cool. But no rain expected with this front. So we have the clouds move through our area, and tomorrow will be cloudy in the morning for many spots and then clearing out for sunshine in the afternoon. But none of this. The rain's going to stay to the north of us. In fact, some showers already occurring around San Francisco and north of that into the Pacific Northwest around Seattle. So that's where the main precipitation will really occur with this front, which I will show you where it is and how it's going to be moving through our area in just a moment. Right now, 67 at the airport, LAX looking good. 67 Van Nuys and Burbank, you guys are sharing that. 50 in Wrightwood and 49 Big Bear. 64 Riverside, beautiful evening ahead. Temperatures pretty much what they were last night. This is showing you that we are within 1 or 2 degrees plus or minus where we were this time last night. So very status quo. One more look at the tropics, and then we're going to get to the local forecast here for the satellite imagery. I want to show you Hurricane Gonzalo still with winds of 110 miles an hour. This is now past Bermuda, but it is still bringing very strong winds and a storm surge. And then you've got Ana, winds of 80, heading to the south of Hawaii. That's going to be a real rainmaker with totals probably getting upwards of around 10, 12 inches, okay? So those are the two storms we are tracking, and then also this front right here that is strapped across the western portions of the U.S., and we're going to see that roll through tonight into tomorrow. It's going to keep our temperatures in check, bring some cloud cover, but it's not going to bring rain, okay? We've got about 4 days here where we have these troughs roll through. We've been having them roll through, and that's going to keep us in the mid-70s below average. There's the next one over there as we go through Monday and into Tuesday. What happens after that? Well, things got to change, and we got high pressure building in. Thursday and Friday next week, Colleen, sorry, we've got temperatures around 90 in some spots of the valley areas. So tomorrow, though, we'll keep it in the 70s, very much what you've been seeing as of late. 7-day forecast for LA Metro and Orange County. We'll go with 4 days of temperatures in the mid to upper 70s, and then warming up to around 80 on Wednesday, 85 to 87 between Thursday and Friday. There's that big warm-up. The valleys, i.e., you've got fantastic weekend ahead. 77 to 79 morning clouds, afternoon sunshine, but check it out. Wednesday's 82, 90 on Thursday, 89 next Friday. The mountains are hanging steady in the lower to mid 60s. Temperatures in the morning around freezing. Look at that low next Friday, 27. It's going to get chilly when that high builds in, dry air, cool nights, that's how it goes. High desert looking very nice, breezy and warm throughout the weekend and even into next week. All right, that's it for me. Have a good night, guys. Back to you at the desk.
All right, Jonathan, thank you. Now to sports. Former Wall Street investment banker Andrew Friedman was officially introduced today as the Dodgers' new president of baseball operations. Dodger president and CEO Stan Kasten was also present at today's news conference. The 37-year-old Friedman guided a low-budget, successful franchise in Tampa. He began to talk about taking over the team with a much higher payroll when the lights went out. Later, outside on the field, Rob asked him if he would bring his thriftiness west.
I think there are some disciplines that are important for us to maintain here, and I also think it's important to embrace our financial advantage and to use it to our advantage.
When it comes down to first on agenda, everyone's going to point at the bullpen, in your opinion?
I think it's something that we'll always focus on. I think each off-season you'll ask me about the bullpen, and I'll always say it's a real focal point for us. There's a lot of volatility in the bullpen, and I think at the end of spring training every year I've commented on that the thing that concerns me the most is our bullpen. You just don't really know, but you want to have the depth. You want to have the differing looks in the bullpen.
And Mattingly will be back.
He definitely will be. He's got the mindset of always trying to improve, always trying to get better, and so do I. I think if you ever feel like you have all the answers in this game, you're in trouble. It's a very humbling game, and so my mindset is always to try to learn something new every day, to challenge myself, and that's Donnie's as well, and so I look forward to us working together on that.
All right, well, pro football, Seattle pulled the trigger on a big trade today. The Seahawks shipped wide receiver Percy Harvin to the Jets for a conditional pick. In 5 games this season, Harvin has caught 22 balls for 133 yards, but he's been a bigger threat on special teams. And you can see a variety of college football tomorrow on ABC7. UCLA visits Cal at 12:30. Then the primetime marquee game of the day is Notre Dame at Florida State. And as of now, Jameis Winston is starting. Sports Zone follows that game. And more news straight ahead here at 8:30 and ahead tonight on Eyewitness News at 11 on ABC7. A police officer is being called a hero tonight after saving the life of a woman he pulled over. Plus, this summer's Ice Bucket Challenge raised millions for ALS. Tonight, a local woman who brought Pilates to the masses shares her inspirational story about her brave fight against the disease. These stories and all the late-breaking news on Southern California's #1 late newscast, Eyewitness News at 11 on ABC7. A big new development coming to the city of Burbank. It will combine a Whole Foods market with new housing above. The city council approved the project despite objections from the mayor. The new development will be on the 3,000 block of Olive Avenue. The plan calls for the market at ground level with 4 additional stories above it. The upper section will include 241 luxury apartments. Those who are against the plan are concerned about added traffic in the area. A 5-year-old Texas boy is already battling some very big odds after being born with a condition where one of his hands didn't form properly. But today he got something that could help him for the rest of his life. A new hand made by a 3D printer. Meet kindergartner Keith Harris. The fingers on Keith's right hand never formed, and when he started going to school, classmates asked a lot of questions that made the little boy uncomfortable. So Keith's family reached out to an organization which helped Keith get a 3D printed hand. Today, Keith got to show off his robotic hand to his classmates.
Thought they would be like not happy, but instead they were like happy.
Oh, well, the Harris family says the next step is to send Keith to summer camp where he will learn to tie his shoes, fish, and even how to shoot a bow and arrow. I'm sure he will be great. And that is our report for tonight. Thank you so much for joining us for Eyewitness News at 8:30 on LA56. Law and Order SVU is next here on LA56. And Eyewitness News continues at 11 p.m. on ABC7 and anytime on ABC7.com. Have a great weekend.